Hello, everyone, parents, teachers. This is going to be an in-service on play-based therapy. We're going to go through the odds and ends of early intervention. This presentation is going to be conducted by myself, Amanda Scapetos, Liz Sisal, and Caitlin Walsh. So let's get started. All right, so our objectives for this presentation. So we're going to go over what is play-based therapy, because it might sound a little silly. Who would qualify for play therapy or EI, which means early intervention. Why we use play-based therapy, and how we can help you. So what is play-based therapy? So I know what you're thinking. Yes, we can use a dollhouse as a target speech-language goals. When we think about using play-based therapy, it's important to pick toys that are simple, something that a child loves, and that we can control. In the event that we have a lot of toys with us, let's just say our kid is picky, we have to be able to separate our materials and even control your targets. I had a child who was actually very grabby, and I had to make sure there was nothing in their reach. So just something to think about. But play-based therapy is planning around speech or language goals, language therapy around a toy or multiple toys. Toys or manipulatives can engage and motivate your child to practice a target or skill. Choosing toys relevant to a child's interest is of vital importance. So some skills we can target include attention, verbalization, turn-taking, pragmatics. The list goes on, like language expansion, utterances, etc., etc. There really are no limits to play-based therapy. So with those target skills I mentioned in mind, I thought it'd be helpful to consider some of the stages of play that I would be keen to look out for, along with the types of play that we use. So the play stages I want to go over, starting at stage 1, which is onlooker play. Think observing. Onlooker play is watching and observing. The kid is likely under 1 year of age. Stage 2 is solitary play. Think solo. They'll be playing by themselves. We see this at about 1 to 2 years of age. Stage 3 is parallel play. So they're playing near others, but not engaging with others. And we typically see this at age 2 or 3 years of age. Stage 4 is associative play. So they play with others, but sometimes they're playing by themselves. And we see this between 3 years and 4 years of age. And stage 5, cooperative play. So they'll play with others and will not continue to play without a partner. And we see this 4 years of age and above. And moving on to our types of play. So we have functional play, which is investigating how common objects work and are used. We have construction play, which are building things with objects. This can be used for fine motor skills, practicing joint attention, turn taking. We have gameplay with rules, a little more structured, but it can be like board games that have a clear set of rules for playing. Again, with that turn taking, can develop cooperative play, that play stage. Next, we have outdoor and movement play, which are like activities that will improve physical movement. So that could be good for motor development, vocabulary expansion, etc. And then we have symbolic, dramatic, and pretend play. So this is going to be like common activities we do in everyday life. So as play. So the use of objects to represent other objects. It'll help children with representations. It'll develop sharing, creativity, emotional development. List goes on. All right. So who qualifies for EI, early intervention, or play therapy? So early intervention is for children ages birth to 3. Some states are continued until 5, but in New York State, we are ages 0 to 3 years. So an EI team will involve families and professionals who help with child's development in the following: cognitive skills, thinking, learning, problem solving, communication skills, gesturing, talking, listening, understanding, physical and sensory skills, crawling, walking, climbing, seeing, hearing, even some grabbing. Social emotional skills, playing, understanding feelings, making friends, and adaptive and self-help skills, eating, bathing, and dressing. So that's a little bit about EI. Next, my friend Kate is going to go over the process.
Hello, I'm Kate, and I'm going to be talking a little bit more about some of the steps required to begin the early intervention process for your child. As Amanda mentioned, typically children who are ages 1 to 3 demonstrating a delay in their developmental milestones may qualify for early intervention services. Parents don't necessarily have to wait for a referral for early intervention. A referral can come from you. It may come from professionals your child sees regularly, such as their healthcare provider, anyone involved in their healthcare or childcare, their teacher, or even social services. After your child is referred to an early intervention program, a service coordinator will work with you and gather any other information and explain next steps. The evaluation process begins to determine eligibility, and if eligible, this is usually followed by a more in-depth assessment, which are usually tests, observations, or interviews. The early intervention team will then write in IFSP, an individualized family service plan. This includes goals, services, supports for you and your child. Of course, it's important to remember that you're a part of the team as well. So, why play and therapy? Many parents may wonder why speech-language therapy often looks like your child is just playing. But I found this picture here, and this kind of explains why it might just look like play. Because research shows children learn best when engaged, and play has been found to improve language, creativity, problem solving, math, social skills, emotional regulation, and fine and gross motor skills. And then this is just a quote I found that I really liked. It reads, "In my opinion, we are never too old to play. I found that most people learn and retain information better within the context of fun and enjoyable activities, which is why play is such an important aspect of speech-language pathology." So what is the purpose of play and why do we do it? Play therapists have specialized skills in the symbolic function of play, counseling techniques that encourage safe exploration of feelings through play, selection of play therapy materials, and basic nonverbal and verbal skills. In these type of sessions, the SLP typically has goals and targets in mind regarding vocabulary, morphology, which is word form, use, and relationship to other words, syntax, which is how words and their parts combine to form phrases and sentences. It can also be used for phonology, which is the study of patterns of sounds in a language and across languages, and or pragmatics, which is the social aspect of language regarding context. Play can assist in pre-verbal communication, such as in the child expressing their needs by gestures and other means. It helps strengthen receptive and expressive language skills. This means understanding words, sentences, and communicative intentions with and without nonverbal supports. It also supports babbling, producing early words and sentences, and expressing a variety of communicative functions verbally and non-verbally. It can help with a child's social emotional interaction, play, and emergent literary skills by engaging in joint action routines, interacting with family caregivers using toys, baby books, and other age-appropriate literacy materials. And lastly, it elicits meaningful communication in order to recast, expand, or model a new communication behavior. So the pros of play. Why does it work? One reason is because it's self-directed and intrinsically motivated. The child is the leader in their play. And to have progress, there must be motivation. A child must have the desire to explore, engage, interact, and discover alongside of a supportive and dynamic environment and adult. On top of that, children just learn best when they're enjoying their activities tailored specifically to their interests. Play also provides a naturalistic environment or a natural context for communication. It creates an environment in which children can simulate their real life experiences, as a way of practicing and understanding how to communicate in the world. It can also help generalize their new skills into their everyday routines. For example, acting out a pretend play scenario involving a school set and toy figures will easily translate to a child's real life experiences in a school setting. Additionally, it can help build relationships and is beneficial for all areas of development. Play helps to establish trust and generates excitement around session activities. It's also the context in which children begin to spend their time with their peers. Children use play as a medium to understand their own personal experiences as well. And then all areas of development are connected and can impact communication in different ways. So play nurtures not just speech language skills, but provides opportunities to build social skills, fine and gross motor skills, problem solving, attention, and memory skills. But the list really goes on and on. So now Liz will be taking over to talk a bit about how to incorporate play into your home with your child.
So, how can we help you, and how can you help your child at home? With play-based therapy, it's really important with speech pathologists to work with your child to encourage new words. When working with young children and making sure to implement these strategies is even more important. So because you, the parent, are with your child every day, all the time, and you have these opportunities to encourage more use of speech and language and more use of these strategies, it's really important to continue this work at home. So there are 8 important parts of play-based therapy, or 8 tenets, the first being the most important. So let your child lead in the activities that they want to do for the day. Let them decide what they want to play with, and that will incite the most growth in their speech and language. You can offer alternative activities or set out things that you might think will be really important to help them increase their speech and language. But at the end of the day, it's really important to follow their lead and let them lead you to what they want to do. Be with your child. They obviously can't do this all alone. You need to be there to encourage their speech and use some of the strategies that I'll mention later. It is important to show interest in the activities that they like and be sensitive to that. If you're just sitting there and you're not quite interacting with them, they're not going to be getting the most out of these activities. So it's really important to show extreme amounts of interest in the activity and be silly and goofy and have a good time with your child to really encourage the growth in their speech. Well, you should let your child try to problem solve on their own and trust that they can work through these things. It might not be the way that you're going to try to solve some problem or you're going to try and do the activity, but it's really important that you let them try to figure out what they like to do and what they think works best. Helping and supporting them is obviously not wrong, but again, you should really try to let them do it on their own first so that they have the opportunity to learn. And lastly, accept that they can act responsibly and accept that they are who they are, and that will really help them grow and increase their language. So some ways to encourage their play and encourage play therapy. Some activities that are really important are ones that you can pretend or you can have extravagant little conversations with. So if we're playing with baby dolls, you could do sounds, baby sounds, or trying to show them exactly what you're doing with the baby. So you're feeding the baby and the baby's hungry and you're changing the baby's diaper and reenacting exactly what you're doing with these dolls or whatever toy you're playing with. This can also go over into the farm animals. So another good one is playing with different animals because they can imitate those sounds that these animals make, and you can model that for them, as well as the cow is walking and the cow is eating and the horse is running, and all those little things that you can do to help them gain more speech and more words. So another thing that you can do is to play telephone or play phones with your kids. So you would take turns talking on the phone, or I'm talking to such and such, and then put the phone to their ear, and you're talking to grandma, or it's grandma's turn to talk on the phone, and you can practice taking turns and also get a lot of that good, those words in. So like our core words, like stop, go, more, please, yes and no. This can be implemented into all of these different activities, but it can be important, like if you're playing with cars, car stop. Or if your child says one word, you might want to try and push them to say 2 words. So if they're just saying stop, go, you could say car go or car stop, and really trying to implement all those different words into that. Another thing you can do is play doctor. This is another one that you can pretend, or you can take turns and be different people. So I could be the doctor and they could be the patient, and then you can switch it around and play however you'd like to. But really trying to encourage these words and these maybe sounds. The last thing you can do is to sing different songs. This is a really good one because you can get into emotions and you can get a lot of different words. And when the kids have something to memorize, they really like to sing. So lastly, how can you really help your child? So giving your child choices is something that's really important because they can request things. So you could say, do you want this or that? And you're really trying to get them to request verbally or with sign language or in some way the item that they want. Another thing would be like asking questions like yes and no. Do you want this? Do you want that? And then something else you can do is expanding. So what I said in the last slide, like if they're saying go and stop, you might want to say the car go or car stop, and really trying to expand on those different words that they can be using. Something that is really important is to model. And I've said that over and over again, but like trying to model the words or the sounds. So if you're playing with the animals, you'll say moo, and you really try to get them to repeat what you're saying, because children learn language through watching their parents and the people around them. Narrating what you're doing, exactly. Feeding the baby, I'm driving the car, I'm playing with the horse, just trying so that they know what you're doing and they can try and recreate that. Using visuals, so like using the toys and showing them exactly what you're doing is very important. So then giving positive reinforcers. We know that this is important because we want to encourage the child to make mistakes and keep trying and really want to learn language and want to get these words that they need. Lastly, you can eliminate distractions. Well, you want your kids to decide what they want to play with or decide what they want to do. It can be important to set aside maybe a couple things out on the floor and maybe trying to hide the rest of the items so that they can really focus on what they're doing and not get too distracted with too many toys and things in front of them. All right, and lastly, these are all of our sources. Thanks, y'all.